John Lancaster says divine intervention led him to New York City from Kentucky back in 1987 for the opening of the Times Square Church, led by fire and brimstone pastor David Wilkerson.
But there's a spirit of truth until we come to the truth.
The last time Lancaster saw Times Square, the women in the marquees were not playing Mary Poppins.
When you came here in 1987, got off the Greyhound bus.
I was just a fresh hillbilly Bob from Versailles, Kentucky, ready to witness for Christ in New York City.
In late 1987, he drove a Salvation Army canteen truck through some of the seediest neighborhoods in the city, where he and Major Betty Baker would offer snacks and hot chocolate to the people on the street.
I mean, this right here used to be, it was horrible. I mean, just drug dealers, prostitutes, just people walking up to you, asking you what you want for drugs and all that. Horrible. That's what's going to cause the Antichrist to be so well accepted, because the Antichrist is coming here and put it all back together.
Lancaster says his work as a street preacher continued even after he left New York, and being questioned by police sometimes came with the territory. But he was a little surprised when investigators from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office showed up at his door in Paint Lick, Kentucky in 2007 to ask him about a 20-year-old murder. In the early morning hours of Saturday, November 21, 1987, Lancaster and Major Baker were driving the canteen truck through an area known as Hell's Kitchen when a young prostitute hopped in the passenger seat to warm up. Her name was Michael Ann Hall, but she was known on the street as Blue Eyes. Lancaster believes that encounter was the work of God.
He used me coming out of the hills of Kentucky to come up here just for that moment.
That moment is important because both he and Major Baker remembered the time was 2 a.m., 3 hours after the police said Lebrew Jones killed Michael Ann, whose bludgeoned body was found shortly after sunrise. Baker recorded the encounter in her nightly log and testified for the defense at Lebrew Jones' trial, but the prosecutor argued Baker got the dates confused.
No, and I felt like slapping his face. I did see her that night. I know I did.
Lancaster, who left New York City the day after the murder, says he could have corroborated Baker's testimony, but was never called as a witness. But only hours before Jones was sentenced to life in prison, prosecutor Brian O'Donohue did reach Lancaster in Kentucky by telephone.
Well, I said, what are you calling me now for? Well, I just want to just close it in my mind that I convicted the right guy. Are you familiar with a prostitute named Blue? I said, yes, sir, I do. And, that kind of threw me back, because I was like, how can I remember something like that 2 years later? Well, like I said, I got a good memory. I thank God for my memory. I don't remember everything, but there are just certain things in my life I can remember, like my mind's eye. I can close my eye and see it.
But at the sentencing, O'Donohue told the judge Lancaster had said he didn't remember the night in question. Yet Lancaster insists he told O'Donohue about the 2 a.m. meeting with Blue Eyes and why he had suddenly left New York.
As far as leaving, I was planning on leaving anyway. I was just trying to save up some money to get out of New York City, and it was just coincidental that I left the same night that she did get murdered.
When investigators went to Kentucky in 2007, they asked Lancaster for a sample of his DNA, and he refused.
DNA, where's DNA come from? It comes out of your mouth, off your body, flakes and all that. Some of my spittle, like when I talk, I can, it's spittle, even your spittle can get on her. She was from close to me to you in that canteen that night. Her hair, that's what some of my hair, hair's always falling. That could have got on her clothes and stayed there, and that would have put me in the crime scene.
Which is exactly where we were standing when I asked Lancaster this question.
You disappeared the next day.
How
do we know you didn't come back here?
Very circumstantial.
Yeah, and I mean, you're a religious man. You believe this was like Sodom and Gomorrah, and she was part of all that.
Right, but I didn't have that kind of spirit like condemnation. I came up here with the compassion of Jesus. I've cried with drunks and prayed with drunks on this very street. So I had no condemnation to anybody. Even her last gurgling moments when she got beaten, maybe she was begging to God, Jesus help me. That's all, from the heart. I can feel it just talking about it. No, I had no condemnation. But at the same time, the Word of God is true. The wages of sin is death.
2 decades after his first visit to the Times Square Church, Lancaster met with Lebrew Jones' legal team. Now, he says Jones should believe the message on the church marquee.